In a bustling hospital, a voice pierces the air, urgently summoning the doctor as a patient fights for breath. The doctor, sensing the gravity of the situation, calls out to his assistant, demanding a ventilator. On the operating table lies Jean Leshaw, the protagonist, gasping for air. As he struggles, his mind drifts through the chapters of his life as a mechanical engineer. He reflects on the relentless grind that has led him to this precarious moment, pondering whether this could be his final act. Memories flash before him. The heart-wrenching day he became an orphan after a tragic car accident claimed his parents, the bittersweet joy of graduation, and the 2 decades spent in a job that drained his spirit, barely scraping by. A profound sense of regret envelopes him as he considers his solitary existence, never having experienced the warmth of a romantic touch. Jean hears the doctor calling his name, urgency lacing the words, but disappointment washes over him as he realizes his life has not unfolded as he had envisioned. The doctor's voice grows more frantic, yet all Jean can feel is an overwhelming fatigue pulling him towards sleep, a desire to escape the turmoil. The scene shifts dramatically to the facade of a grand mansion, its opulent architecture radiating wealth and enigma. Inside, a man stirs awake, squinting against the bright sunlight. It's Jean, and as his eyes adjust, he takes in the lavish surroundings, marveling at the luxury that envelopes him. He wonders about the cost of such a hospital room, feeling a mix of awe and confusion. Suddenly, a peculiar window materializes before him, capturing his attention. The screen greets him with a warm welcome to the enchanting continent of Eldora. He finds himself pondering the strange window before him, his fingers reaching out to touch its unfamiliar surface. A sudden jolt of pain shoots through his head, pulling him back into a haze of confusion. As he attempts to turn his head, a fleeting image catches his eye, and he gasps in disbelief. His reflection stares back at him, a visage so foreign that it sends waves of bewilderment crashing over him. How could he have changed so drastically? A week has slipped by, and Jean now inhabits this new body, immersed in a quiet room with a book in hand. The tranquility is interrupted by the creak of the door as one of his servants enters, beaming with warmth. "Your tea is ready," she announces, presenting a steaming cup. Jean looks up, a wave of gratitude washing over him for this simple act of kindness. Setting his book aside, he returns her smile and expresses his thanks. As he gazes at the cup, he reflects on how, after a week, he is beginning to grasp the nuances of his new existence. He has come to terms with the fact that he has left his old life behind, now embodying a man named Rain Edgar. Jean learns that he is the 3rd son of Grand Duke Alpha Edgar, blessed with both a brother and a sister. Memories of his new life flood back, recalling how, in his youth, he was cherished and cared for, always reminded to eat well to grow strong. He fondly remembers his mother, who filled their days with laughter through playful food games. Some even went out of their way to create special gifts for him, like the new jacket he had recently received. Now, he reflects on the warmth of being the youngest in the family. Surrounded by love and a profound sense of belonging, he smiles, relishing the memories that aren't truly his, pondering whether this new existence serves as a balm for the painful life he once endured, a life devoid of love. His thoughts drift to Eldiria, the continent he inhabits, where magic weaves through the very fabric of daily life. The Coral Empire stands as the mightiest of human realms, renowned for its formidable military prowess. Yet other races inhabit this land too, reclusive elves and industrious dwarves, each absorbed in their own pursuits. He recalls his noble lineage, governing a vast territory of around 300,000 square kilometers, with a population nearing 1 million. As a noble, he enjoys fine garments and various privileges, including a devoted maid who attends to his every need, preparing his tea with meticulous care. As he lifts the cup to his lips, he reflects on how this life is a reward for the diligence he exhibited in his past. Just then, his maid beams at him, announcing that the lord of the house wishes to speak with him and requests that he follow her. The scene shifts to the lord of the house, who is engrossed in a mountain of papers and documents. He looks up as his butler respectfully announces the arrival of young Master Rain. The lord nods, instructing that Rain be admitted. The butler complies, leading Rain into the Lord's chamber. Upon entering, Rain shows deference to his father, Alderon Edgar, the Lord of the territory, by closing his eyes, bowing slightly, and stating his arrival as commanded. Alderon regards him with a serious demeanor, inquiring if Rain understands the reason for his summons. However, having only just arrived in this world, Rain is at a loss, his confusion evident as he admits he does not know why he has been called. His father sets aside the documents he had been poring over and remarks that Rain has reached a pivotal moment in his life, one where he must take charge of his own domain. He inquires if there are any towns or regions Rain aspires to govern, but Rain, caught off guard, replies that he would simply inherit a territory. Concern flickers across his father's face as he rubs his temples and closes his eyes, confirming Alderon's assumption. Rising from his seat, he approaches a massive map that details the expanse of his jurisdiction. He pauses, gesturing toward a distant area in the north, explaining that this would be Rain's new responsibility. Rain leans closer to the map, trying to decipher the specific location his father is indicating. His father points to a northern region, clarifying that while it is relatively secure, the pressing issue is food scarcity. There simply isn't enough sustenance to support the population. Turning to Rain with a grave demeanor, he cautions that even though the area is safe now, it is unwise to take that for granted. Factions are always vying for control over land and resources in the shadows. Rain meets his father's gaze, nodding as he absorbs the weight of this reality. He contemplates the current state of the empire, recognizing the slow decline of the Coral royal family. With this decline comes a surge in political corruption, and he is acutely aware of the open and covert struggles among numerous lords competing for dominance. He strokes his chin, reflecting on his reincarnation and the warmth he has experienced here, feelings he had never known before. A serious resolve settles over him as he vows to protect the people who have shown him such kindness. Noticing the intensity in his son's expression, his father begins to worry that the burden of managing a territory might be overwhelming for him. He starts to reassure Rain that there is no need to feel pressured, as his siblings will be there to support him. But before he can finish, Rain interjects, asking if resolving the food crisis would enhance the safety of the territory. His father responds that the issue of food cannot be resolved swiftly, even with his eagerness to assist. He advises Rain to approach the situation gradually, believing his son is not yet ready for such a weighty responsibility, as he still thinks like a child and assumes the problem can be easily remedied. Rain contemplates this seriously, convinced that his father will soon be astonished by his capabilities. He plans to draw upon the wisdom accumulated over centuries from the Industrial Revolution, knowledge he has gained through his hard work in another world. Clenching his fist, determination gleaming in his eyes, he looks at his father and confidently declares that he will tackle the food issue. The following day, Rain embarks on his journey to his new region in a horse-drawn carriage. As they travel along the road, his maid smiles at him, but he is lost in thought, poring over the materials related to the territory he is set to manage. According to the document, Ashling City lies at the westernmost edge of Grand Duke Alderon's domain, bordering the enemy's territory to the north. To the west, the realm of the elves stretches out, while the vast ocean lies to the south. However, due to its strategic position at the crossroads of three nations, Ashling City is often engulfed in the flames of conflict. The relentless wars have transformed once fertile lands into barren wastelands, and the population has dwindled, leaving many in dire straits. Rain understands that to ignite an industrial revolution in Ashling City, he will require a substantial labor force. With the population in decline and the land ravaged by war, securing enough workers poses a significant challenge. He realizes he must devise strategies to attract and support the people essential for this transformation. What astonishes him the most is that he has acquired some sort of ability. Rubbing his face in disbelief, he recalls the familiar window that had appeared, revealing his scanning ability. A new quest had been bestowed upon him, requiring the use of his newfound skill 10 times. With each scan, he could delve into the statistics of those around him. Having already experimented on his family, he gained a preliminary understanding of how this ability functioned and how people in this world behaved. A somber expression crossed his face as he grasped the enormity of the task that lay ahead. He knew that upon his arrival, his first priority would be to gather talented individuals to aid in the reconstruction of Ashling City. As they journeyed onward, the maid's brow furrowed with concern. Memories of her conversation with the local lord flooded back, where he had urged her to keep his son out of trouble during their stay. The lord hoped that rain would not stir up too much chaos in Ashling City. She could only nod in agreement, feeling the heavy burden of his expectations. Stealing a glance at Rain, she silently wished for the young master to behave, acutely aware of the responsibility resting on her shoulders after the Lord's directives. Meanwhile, in Ashling City, within the opulent confines of the city lord's mansion, two men engaged in a hushed discussion. One inquired if the other had heard the news about the Grand Duke's youngest son arriving that very day. He pondered whether it was the opportune moment to take action, explaining that the timing was indeed favorable. His expression shifted to one of greed as he revealed a rumor. The Grand Duke Alderan was fiercely protective of his youngest child, as were his older siblings. The implication was clear: kidnapping the youngest could yield a substantial fortune. However, the hooded figure remained composed, asserting that they would refrain from any action until their master issued commands. He stressed the importance of waiting for further instructions before proceeding. Yet, the other man pressed for urgency, arguing that the young master might uncover their tax and financial deceptions if they delayed. He emphasized that any delay could jeopardize their plans. The masked man chuckled, remarking that a young noble like the master is likely clueless about taxes and financial matters. He suggested that if the other was concerned, he should simply hand the young master some random accounts to keep him occupied, and the master would have to figure out the chaos. Rising to his feet, he declared that they should prepare to welcome the young master, who was expected shortly. The other man nodded in agreement, while the masked man seethed with anger, cursing the lord of the land. He believed it was time for Alderan to face the consequences of his actions. As the scene shifts to the young master and maid, they step into a desolate region that matched his expectations of neglect due to a dwindling population. Aware of the challenges ahead, he called for his maid and asked for a map of the area. She promptly handed it to him, and he unfolded it to scrutinize the details. He contemplated digging a waterway to the west and building a canal to connect it to the southern harbor. But his thoughts were abruptly interrupted by the cries of a small girl pleading with her father to stop gambling. He glanced over to witness a heated argument between the father and daughter. The girl, on her knees, begged him to cease his gambling, tears streaming down her face as she explained that the money he took was meant for her mother's treatment. The father, consumed by anger, demanded she hand over the money, insisting he would win this time. The girl clung desperately to the bag, unwilling to let go, knowing it was vital for her mother's care. Frustrated, the father threatened to take it from her by force. Before he could act, Rain, infuriated by the scene, rushed in and shoved the father back, sending him crashing to the ground. He gazed down at the fallen man with a heavy heart but soon felt a sharp sting in his fist. His maid rushed to his side, and he realized his hand was bruised and red from the impact of his intervention. He groaned about his discomfort, and she looked on with concern, gently massaging his hand. She suggested that the next time the young master faced a situation like this, he should let her know in advance so she could equip him with protective gear. He responded that it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, leaving him no time to call for her assistance. He then instructed his maid to ensure the girl was all right as he strode toward the father, declaring that he needed to have a serious talk with the scoundrel. The father rose, rubbing his head where he had struck it. His face contorted in pain as he gazed up, a shadow looming over him. His expression was one of fury, but he was too enraged by what he had just witnessed to care. He demanded to know how a father could squander his family's life savings on gambling and then turn to strike his own daughter, questioning the man's sanity. The father, noticing Rain's attire, suddenly felt a chill of fear. It was clear he didn't belong to the common folk. Trembling, he stammered, asking who Rain was. Rain leaned closer, his gaze piercing with lethal intent, and asserted that the man's identity was irrelevant. What truly mattered was that if he discovered the father had returned to the casino, he would ensure the man vanished without a trace. In a panic, The father bolted, crying out that he wouldn't gamble again, promising he'd never touch it again. Satisfied with having dealt with that scum, Rain turned to the daughter, inquiring if she was all right. He thought this was the perfect moment to assess her stats using the new skill he had obtained from the system. The maid smiled at the girl, reassuring her that it was safe to converse with him since he was her master. The girl clutched her arm, her eyes glistening with sadness as she expressed her gratitude for rescuing her from her father. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reflected on how, without their intervention, her mother would have been unable to receive the treatment she desperately needed. The thought of what might have happened if her father had acquired the money sent a shiver down her spine. As she continued to speak, he activated his skill, and what he discovered left him astonished. The system revealed her name, Lillian Aldert, a 17-year-old with a leadership score of 45, strength of 25, loyalty of 50, magic of 25, and strategy of 55. Her unique talent lay in farming and harvesting. He stared in surprise, realizing that while her stats weren't exceptionally high, she was a crucial asset in agriculture. It dawned on him that he needed to recruit her. She would be instrumental in future farming endeavors. With a warm smile, he suggested that since she was heading into town to seek treatment for her mother, she could accompany them, as they were also on their way. However, she hesitated, shyly expressing her concern about bringing dirt into his carriage. He reassured her, explaining that the carriage was merely a simple assembly of wood for transport, and cleanliness was the least of his worries. Then, with a serious demeanor, he posed a question that caught her off guard. How could a casino thrive in a place so ravaged by poverty? Intrigued yet uncertain, she agreed to share the tale of how their land had fallen into despair. As they made their way to town, she recounted the events of the previous fall when the Grand Duke of the enemy nation, Soren, launched an attack, resulting in countless soldier casualties. Then, in the spring, a catastrophic flood swept through, devastating the land and crops. The citizens' lives had become unbearable, and even the simplest task of finding a meal had turned into a daunting challenge. The scene transitions as they arrive in town, their expressions clouded by the sight of numerous people in distress along the streets. He contemplated the urgent need for a headcount to assess the available workforce, envisioning how he could place these struggling souls into jobs that would uplift their lives. As he surveyed the scene, it dawned on him that he must rush to the Ashling City Lord's estate to check on the available funds, recognizing that this was crucial for initiating land development to aid these individuals. He turned to Lillian, inquiring about the location of the Lord's estate. Just as she began to provide directions, a thunderous voice interrupted them. A furious man on horseback charged down the street, bellowing for everyone to clear his path. His face was a mask of rage as he berated the crowd, calling them peasants and demanding they move aside while he barreled down the center of the road. In a split second, the maid noticed the oncoming threat and yanked him back, realizing the horseman was headed straight for her young master. She screamed a warning, pulling him into her embrace just in time to shield him from harm as the man continued to shout for everyone to disperse. Annoyed by the chaos he was causing, she contemplated how she might confront him the next time their paths crossed. However, her irritation faded when she felt the young master tapping her arm, struggling for breath. Concern washed over her as she released him, her mind racing with worry about whether he was injured. He clung to her, gasping for air, and once he regained his composure, he looked at her with gratitude, thanking her for her quick action. Turning back to the direction the man rode off, he asked Lillian if she knew who that furious figure was, while his maid's irritation simmered beneath the surface as she reflected on the encounter. She proceeds to reveal the identity of the man, her expression shifting to one of concern as she mentions that he is the young master of the Edwin family. A flicker of fear crosses her face as she glances downward, acknowledging that all the casinos in Ashling City are under their family's control. He offers her a reassuring smile, attempting to lighten the mood, remarking on how wealthy they must be to own every casino in the city. She hesitates, still burdened by the gravity of the situation, but he remains optimistic, believing this could be a golden opportunity for him. He envisions using the profits from the casinos to fund his land development project, chuckling to himself at the thought that his financial troubles might soon be resolved. With newfound confidence, he instructs Leland to guide him to the casino. However, she expresses her concerns about the young master, warning that he could easily be swindled out of his money. He reassures her, his demeanor darkening as he asserts that the casino won't outsmart him. Yet, as she watches him stride away, anxiety gnaws at her. She wonders about his unwavering confidence and questions the extent of his true power. The scene shifts to a building that Leland believes to be the casino. He approaches the entrance where 2 guards stand watch. A smile crosses his face as he imagines how this place will transform once his industrial production is up and running. The guards immediately recognize his attire and open the door for him, allowing all 3 to step inside. Inside, he observes a crowd of commoners pleading for money. One man insists he can recover his losses, while another appears utterly defeated, having lost everything. Nearby, a gambler revels in his fortune, counting his winnings with glee. A woman nearby appears visibly annoyed as a man engrossed in another game shouts for the ball to land on red. Rain observes the scene, realizing that he must eliminate such distractions if he wants people to focus and work effectively. Just then, his maid leans in and informs him that soldiers have surrounded the casino, asking if he wants them to take action immediately. He responds that they should wait for a significant player to arrive before turning the place upside down. With that, he strides forward, and she nods in agreement with the plan. However, it isn't long before a cheerful casino staff member approaches him, inquiring about what game he would like to play. Rain, sensing the man's intentions to swindle him, knows he must play along to lure out the big player. He feigns uncertainty, asking if there's an easy game to try. The staff member beams and insists he is just the right game for Rain, urging him to follow. They arrive at a table where the dealer asks if there are any more players wishing to buy in. One person has already paid and is waiting for the game to commence. As Rain surveys the setup, he realizes he hasn't brought any money. The staff member quickly produces 2 coins, reassuring Rain not to worry, claiming they are compliment to Uria and encouraging him to give it a go. Rain recognizes this as the beginning of the scam, but he takes the coins and tosses them onto the table, betting small to win the dice game. The staff member grins at the dealer, signaling him to ensure Rain's loss, and the dealer returns the smile, fully aware of the plan. He then raises the cup and declares that the numbers are 6, 6, and 4, which equals a huge number. The staff member conceals his joy as he claims it was unlucky for Rain, insisting he almost won the game. Rain scoffs, remarking that the game advised by the staff worker isn't as enjoyable or simple as he claims. He then turns back to his maid and indicates that he is hungry and intends to depart the area. However, a staff member rushes in front of him and instructs him to wait. The staff member's demeanor darkens as he reveals his true nature, emphasizing that Rain can only leave after repaying the money he was given. He extends his hand, waiting for the payment. Rain looks down at the staff member's hand and questions when he ever owed this place any money. The staff member steps forward, mocking him and stating that he took the chips and must pay them back first. Rain remains calm, pointing out that the staff member had said the chips were on the house. In response, the staff member's greed surfaces as he smirks and declares that nothing is free in this place. He chuckles loudly, claiming that each chip is worth 100 gold coins. He adds that after the service charge and interest, Rain now owes them 250 gold coins. He expresses greed and excitement, suggesting that if Rain did not bring enough money, he could always leave his maid behind. But then a voice cries out, calling for a staff member and stating that he should cut the nonsense, as they know he is a liar. This gets his attention. Lillian tells him not to believe him since each token is only worth 1 silver coin and that the staff member is lying through his teeth. He then gets furious with her, questioning where she came from and how she managed to disrupt his grand plot to steal this guy's money. He orders the guards to come in and deal with this little troublemaker. But Rain, having heard enough of this man's nonsense, steps in to protect Lillian. He strikes the staff member hard, sending him flying into a dealer's table and scattering gambling chips everywhere. As he stares down at the staff member, his fury rises. He claims that Lillian was speaking to him and wonders how this man dared to interrupt their conversation. Suddenly, a mob rushes in, grabbing the chips scattered on the ground and disputing over whom they belong to. As the chaos unfolds, Rain realizes that these individuals may be too far gone to rescue. Just then, a man strides in, demanding to know who dares to create such a mess in the casino. Rain turns and sees it's the young master of the Edwin family, the same man he encountered on horseback earlier. A smile spreads across his face as he thinks to himself that the big player has finally arrived. The moment the man stepped into the room, the uproar fell silent as if a spell had been cast. His piercing gaze swept across the chaos, radiating discontent, before he commanded his guards to teach the unruly a harsh lesson. Without a moment's pause, the guards sprang into action, ruthlessly attacking those closest to them, their cries for mercy falling on deaf ears. The remaining spectators stood frozen in terror, too intimidated to intervene. The young master of the Elwyn family, Vasurlo, cast a scornful look at the onlookers, warning them to behave or suffer the same fate. Lillian, gripping Leah's arm tightly, whispered that it was all her fault, burdened with guilt for leading them into this den of danger. She felt a wave of shame wash over her for putting Rain and Leah in such jeopardy. Memories flooded back of Rain personally taking her mother to the hospital, ensuring she received the care she needed and vowing to cover the expenses. That recollection ignited a fire within her. Summoning her resolve, Lillian stepped forward, her voice steady as she declared she would not allow anyone to deceive her brother. Her unexpected bravery drew the crowd's attention, though most remained too frightened to act. Whispers rippled through the onlookers, questioning her identity and daring to challenge the young master of the Elwyn family. Vasurlo's icy stare bore into her, his fury palpable at her defiance. Unfazed, Lillian accused him of using the casino as a means to exploit and ruin families, vowing to protect Rain and Leah, whom she deemed good people unworthy of such cruelty. Seething with rage, Vasurlo lunged at her, but Lillian stood firm, positioning herself protectively in front of Rain. Just as Vasurlo was about to strike, Rain intercepted him, seizing his arm. Activating his system skill, Rain assessed Vasurlo's attributes, discovering alarmingly low stats. A mere 5 loyalty points and a personality steeped in cruelty and bloodlust. Recognizing the Elwyn family as a potential threat, one capable of betrayal at any moment, Rain blocked Vasurlo's path. Vasurlo glared at him, accusing him of disrespecting the casino's rules. Rain calmly released his grip, replying that he understood the rules all too well. That in this realm, power reigned supreme, dictating every facet of life, while the mighty shaped the laws. Vasurlo, with a sneer of arrogance, was utterly convinced of his dominance over the city. He questioned Rain's audacity to stand against him, wondering if Rain even grasped the weight of his identity. Yet, Rain's demeanor remained unshaken. He replied with unwavering confidence, asserting that he had no need to recognize Vasurlo. What truly mattered was his own strength, as his fist was mightier and his word held authority. With a decisive clap of his hands, he signaled his soldiers to charge into the casino. The scene then transitioned to a lavish banquet held in Rain's honor, where the city's elite gathered, each harboring their own secret ambitions. Among them was Lucas, the leader of a distinguished family, who aimed to ally with the city lord to teach Rain a lesson. He had intended to use Vasurlo as a bridge to connect with Rain, but was now perplexed by Vasurlo's absence. Frustration mounted as he realized he could not depend solely on the city lord's ineptitude and would need to recalibrate his strategy. As the banquet hall buzzed with whispers, a booming voice heralded Rain's entrance. The atmosphere shifted dramatically, plunging into a tense silence as Rain strode in, his presence demanding attention. Guests quickly adjusted their attitudes, and the head of the Raven family rushed forward to introduce himself, presenting a gift to Rain. Another attendee, the head of the Jose family, eagerly introduced his daughter, hoping to win favor. However, Rain's piercing gaze silenced the room as he commanded everyone to hush. With all eyes on him, Rain proclaimed it was time to commence the proceedings. He gestured for his aides to bring forth a large blueprint, an unusual object that instantly captivated the crowd. Pointing to the design, Rain explained it was a plan for a dam he had drafted earlier that day, mentioning his intention to recruit skilled craftsmen for its construction to ensure its success. The atmosphere in the room buzzed with hushed conversations as the participants exchanged bewildered looks. One voice broke through the murmurs, questioning what a dam was and speculating if it might be a fishing tool. With a swift motion, Rain called for quiet and directed Leah to bring up a map of the area. As silence enveloped the room, he launched into his presentation. Rain detailed how during his survey of Island City that very day, he had pinpointed the source of the city's recurring floods, a mismanaged canal in the northern region. By constructing a dam at this site, they could regulate water flow, using it to irrigate fields in the dry months and releasing excess water during the rainy season to avert flooding. Lucas, listening with rapt attention, felt a surge of admiration for the cleverness of the proposal. He recognized that if the dam were built, it could dramatically enhance the city's agricultural output. For the first time, he acknowledged Rain's sharp and inventive intellect. An older gentleman in the crowd raised a question about how the project would affect them, prompting Rain to respond with composure, explaining that he required their investments to finance the dam's construction. This revelation sent shockwaves through the audience, igniting a chorus of discontent as many voiced their inability to contribute due to financial constraints. Lucas chose to remain quiet, contemplating that while Rain was undoubtedly brilliant, he was perhaps overly optimistic in expecting these opportunists to invest willingly. Yet Rain was not as naive as they believed. With a confident smile, he reassured them that there was no need to fear poverty. He had a strategy to make everyone wealthy. He disclosed that earlier that day he had taken control of a casino, seizing nearly 50,000 gold coins, and hinted at several more casinos in Island City that were ripe for similar endeavors. The crowd was left in stunned silence, their minds racing as they grappled with the weight of this revelation. Whispers filled the air, laced with anxiety, as some wondered if their investments in the casino had vanished into thin air. Others clung to the hope that the seized establishment wasn't part of their portfolio. It soon became evident that the grandest casino in Island City was under the ownership of Lord Andron, suggesting that Rain had stirred the ire of a formidable adversary. Lucas, his outward calm concealing a tempest of anger, stepped forward to confront Rain, accusing him of unlawfully dismantling a legitimate business without proper authorization, stressing that the laws of the Coral Empire were not to be trifled with. He warned Rain of the repercussions that awaited him. The crowd quickly rallied behind Lucas, echoing his sentiments, condemning Rain for overstepping his bounds and reminding him that casinos were recognized businesses. As the crowd grew bolder, emboldened by Lucas's objections, Rain remained unperturbed. He addressed the assembly, pointing out the irony that when he sought investments, they claimed to be financially strapped, yet now, with the prospect of profit, their concerns had suddenly resurfaced. He highlighted their complicity in the casino's operations and warned them that this was their final opportunity to salvage their reputations before he took matters into his own hands. At this, Rain's soldiers stepped forward, a stark reminder of his authority. Lucas, representing the group, insisted that the Grand Duke would never endorse Rain's reckless behavior. Others joined in, urging Rain to reconsider his stance and exercise restraint. Rain, with a knowing smile, felt his plan coming to fruition. With an air of command, he announced his willingness to discuss the law, his voice steady yet authoritative as he ordered the entrance of those who could clarify the situation. The room fell into a tense silence, awaiting Rain's next move. At his command, 2 men captured at the casino were brought into the chamber. Lucas, seated among the nobles, felt a jolt of recognition. These 2 were always at his son's side. Their sudden arrival sent a wave of unease through Lucas. A gnawing suspicion took root in his mind. Something must have happened to his son. The men were brought in bound and gagged, their voices silenced. Rain, maintaining an air of calm, turned to Lucas, inquiring if he recognized them. Lucas, carefully masking his emotions, shook his head, feigning ignorance, and pressed Rain for clarification. With a light smile, Rain sought to ease Lucas's tension, explaining that it was merely a minor incident. These 2 men had attempted to assassinate him that afternoon. He cast a pointed glance at Lucas, revealing that they had boasted about controlling the city of Ashling and hinted at having a formidable ally backing them. Lucas's face darkened, though he fought to keep his composure. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he struggled to conceal his growing anxiety. Rain commanded his soldiers to release the two men, suggesting they allow the guests to see if anyone recognized them. The nobles exchanged anxious looks, many quickly identifying the men as attendants of Vasurlo. A palpable fear settled over the room as the implications of Rain's words sank in. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Lucas acted swiftly. He seized a dagger from the table and, with a ferocity that stunned the onlookers, lunged at the two men. He condemned them as vile commoners who dared to threaten the Duke's son, swiftly ending their lives. Blood pooled on the floor, and an eerie silence enveloped the room as the other nobles stood frozen in horror, too intimidated to intervene. Standing over the lifeless bodies, Lucas turned to Rain, feigning a look of remorse. He offered profuse apologies, claiming his actions were driven by rage upon learning of the assassination attempt. He implored Rain for forgiveness, a plea that Rain had anticipated, causing a knowing smile to spread across his face. He commended Lucas for his sense of justice, praising him as a noble who acted with conviction. Lucas, concealing his relief, expressed gratitude for the compliment, insisting he had merely done what was necessary. But Rain was not done. With calm authority, he commanded his soldiers to bring forth the mastermind behind the chaos, curious if any other nobles in the room shared Lucas's principles. The order made Lucas tense, and soon his son, Vasurlo, was dragged into the chamber as Vasurlo stumbled in. Completely unaware of the unfolding drama, he shouted angrily at the soldiers to release him, boasting about his father's power and threatening dire consequences for everyone present once he was free. Lucas's composure shattered at the sight of his son. All arrogance evaporated as he grasped the reason for Vasurlo's absence from the banquet. Upon noticing the lifeless forms of his two attendants on the floor, Vasurlo's fury ignited. He hurled insults at Rain, vowing to torture him once he was liberated. Unfazed by the outburst, Rain chuckled, sarcastically observing that Vasurlo not only wished to kill him but also seemed intent on inflicting maximum suffering. Vasurlo continued his tirade, boasting that no one in Ashling dared to challenge him and that Rain's demise was a foregone conclusion. Rain turned to Lucas, inquiring if he concurred with his son's bold claims. Still oblivious to Rain's true identity, Vasurlo laughed and mocked him further. Just as Vasurlo was about to unveil Lucas's identity, his father interrupted sharply, desperation creeping into his voice. Lucas chastised Vasurlo, calling him a disobedient son, and commanded him to kneel before Rain. When Vasurlo hesitated, Lucas forced him down, kneeling beside his son. In a moment of vulnerability, Lucas pleaded for Rain's mercy, begging for forgiveness and offering all his possessions in exchange for his son's life. It was at that moment that Vasurlo came to a startling realization about his blunder. Memories of his father's advice flooded back, urging him to cultivate a friendship with the Duke's son. A wave of dread washed over him as the truth about Rain's identity dawned on him. Stammering, Vasurlo offered his apologies, vowing never to act so recklessly again. Rain's demeanor remained icy as he pointed out that his soldiers and authority were undeniable evidence of his rank. Lucas quickly joined in, pledging that the Elwyn family would serve Rain with unwavering loyalty, even going so far as to offer to relinquish all their ill-gotten gains. Unfazed, Rain accepted Lucas's proposal, assuring him that compliance would ensure his family's safety. Relieved, Lucas expressed his gratitude, but as he glanced at the city lord, he realized his influence had waned significantly in a hushed tone. Lucas confided in Rain about a conspiracy against the Duke, revealing that Lord Eldrick had been conspiring with external foes to betray the city. The revelation sent shockwaves through the room, and all eyes turned to Eldrick, who stood paralyzed with fear. Just as Lucas was about to elaborate, Rain cut him off sharply, accusing him of defaming Eldrick and asserting that he had already shown enough leniency. He commanded his guards to seize Lucas and Vasurlo for execution. Stunned and terrified, Lucas struggled to comprehend Rain's abrupt change in demeanor. Meanwhile, Eldrick, relieved by Rain's defense, stepped forward to pledge his loyalty, extolling Rain's wisdom and promising steadfast support. Rain, with a smile, assured Eldrick of his complete trust. However, beneath the surface, Rain discreetly employed his system to assess Eldrick's attributes. Among the usual statistics, he discovered a trait of greed and noted a loyalty level of merely 15. Rain concluded that, like Lucas, Eldrick was destined for elimination, but for the time being, he would leverage Eldrick's resources to advance his own ambitions. As the banquet drew to a close, Rain found himself immersed in work, laboring late into the night. The nobles had generously contributed over 100,000 gold coins, a sum that mirrored 2 years' worth of taxes collected from the city of Ison. Yet, despite this substantial amount, Rain felt a gnawing dissatisfaction. Just then, Leah entered the room, cradling a steaming cup of tea. She set it gently on the desk, her eyes catching the storm of displeasure etched on Rain's face. Rain accepted the tea, his voice laced with bitterness as he questioned whether Leah truly grasped the immense wealth of the nobles. Instead of answering, Leah shifted the conversation to a more urgent matter, inquiring about Rain's plans regarding Lucas's revelation at the party. If Lord Eldrick was indeed plotting betrayal, it could spell disaster for Rain. With a calming presence, Rain urged her to remain composed. He confessed his suspicions about Eldrick's treachery but explained that confronting him now would be unwise. When Leah pressed for reasons, Rain stretched and stood, revealing that Eldrick's full web of influence in Ison remained shrouded in mystery. Acting too soon could unleash chaos, so it was prudent to let Eldrick believe Rain was merely a naive young lord, blissfully unaware of the lurking dangers. The next morning, Eldrick convened with Guildmaster Malcolm at the Mags Guild. He handed Malcolm a document, and as the Guildmaster read it, his expression contorted with rage. He slammed the paper down, denouncing the situation as absurd. Eldrick, maintaining his composure, urged Malcolm not to overreact, dismissing Rain as just an eager young noble trying to impress the Grand Duke. Malcolm, however, was far from placated. His frustration mounted as he reminded Eldrick that even the Grand Duke treated the Mags Guild with respect. Meanwhile, Eldrick, secretly reveling in Malcolm's anger, felt a surge of triumph. He believed Rain had unwittingly provided him with the perfect chance to curry favor with the guild, a feat he had previously struggled to achieve. Malcolm stormed away, clutching the paper tightly, vowing to confront Rain for an explanation. Meanwhile, Eldrick felt a quiet satisfaction, certain that Rain would soon find himself alone in Malcolm's anger and his study. Rain was engrossed in sketching plans for a hydraulic construction project, the task stirring memories of the struggles he had faced in his past life. Just then, Leah entered, announcing an unexpected visitor. Guildmaster Malcolm had arrived and was demanding to see him. Taken aback, Rain promptly headed to the parlor to meet him. As soon as Rain stepped into the room, Malcolm confronted him with fury, slamming a recruitment notice onto the table. He accused Rain of insulting the Wizards Guild. Confused, Rain sought clarification, and Malcolm pointed to the notice, which stated that no mages, the disabled, or the elderly would be hired for Rain's project. He pressed Rain for an explanation of why such a notice had been issued. Rain studied the paper and calmly clarified that it pertained to the dam construction project, seeing no link between the notice and any offense to the guild. Malcolm, however, was unconvinced, claiming that by excluding mages, Rain was showing blatant disrespect to the guild and its members. Rain was taken aback, surprised that mages would even seek manual labor positions. Still seething, Malcolm warned that without a reasonable explanation, all mages in the guild would refuse to work for him. Rain frowned, silently calling upon his system to analyze Malcolm's stats. The system revealed that Malcolm's loyalty level was 82, and his personality was marked as inquisitive and straightforward. Rain realized that Malcolm had been manipulated. With a smile, he patiently laid out his reasoning, highlighting 3 key points. First, mages had limited mana and could only manage a small amount of work each day, making them ill-suited for large-scale construction. Their salaries were comparable to those of 10 common laborers, making them prohibitively expensive. As a noble, it was Rain's responsibility to prioritize the well-being of the ordinary folk who lacked the guild's backing. However, Malcolm remained skeptical. He contended that magic held a revered status in their society, and those without magical talent deserved to be trampled underfoot by the mages. Rain, irritated by this viewpoint, acknowledged that it might reflect the harsh truth but firmly asserted his intention to change it. He proclaimed that starting in Ashling, he would demonstrate that mages were no different from regular humans. Deeply offended, Malcolm issued an ultimatum, demanding that Rain retract his statement or face the wrath of the Mages Guild. Rain's demeanor turned icy as he reminded Malcolm to mind his tone. Nearby, Leah pressed a knife to Malcolm's throat, her eyes blazing with menace. Paralyzed with fear, Malcolm listened as Rain calmly pointed out that there was indeed a law permitting a mage to execute someone for disrespect. Rain suggested testing the law with a small cut to see which side the court would favor. Trembling, Malcolm quickly apologized, acknowledging his error and pleading for forgiveness. Rain, realizing that Malcolm's loyalty remained intact, understood that the guild master had acted out of ignorance rather than malice. Choosing not to escalate the situation, Rain instructed Leah to escort Malcolm out. Grateful, Malcolm thanked Rain and hurriedly departed. As he left, the system notified Rain that he had completed a beginner task by using the investigation function on 10 individuals. A reward was issued, and a new task appeared: train 5 characters with high stats. Satisfied with his progress, Rain decided to review his rewards later. Outside the estate, Eldry stood waiting for Malcolm. As soon as he spotted the guild master, he hurried over, masking his true intentions with a facade of concern. He inquired about the outcome of the meeting, and Malcolm, still feeling the sting of humiliation, sighed heavily and confessed that Rain had dismissed him outright, even going so far as to throw him out. Eldry, though frustrated, quickly shifted gears and concocted a new scheme. He reassured Malcolm that he had a plan, one that would not only persuade Rain to reconsider but also compel him to respect the Wizards Guild. After his initial strategy fell flat, Eldry encouraged Malcolm to incite the townsfolk to refuse to work for Rain, believing that such defiance would force Rain to turn to Malcolm for help. However, Malcolm immediately shot down the idea, pointing out that Rain had provided excellent working conditions, making it unlikely for the townsfolk to reject his offer. Undeterred, Eldry proposed an alternative tactic. If the workers under Rain were portrayed as lazy and unproductive, Rain would eventually become disenchanted with them. Malcolm dismissed this notion as well, clarifying that his frustration stemmed from Rain's refusal to hire mages, not from any issues with the commoners. He was hesitant to take action against Rain for what he deemed a trivial matter. Eldrick pressed on, urging Malcolm to reconsider. He argued that the commoners' inherent laziness was the root of their struggles and starvation. If the land was Bahrain, Eldry questioned why they didn't take the initiative to hunt for food. He insisted that people as idle as the commoners could never truly work hard for Rain. Reluctantly, Malcolm agreed to give Eldry's plan a shot. Meanwhile, Rain's recruitment notice was posted in the town center, quickly drawing a crowd. The townsfolk gathered, intrigued by the new lord's ambitions to build something and his call for workers. As they perused the notice, disbelief washed over them. The job promised a full 8-hour workday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., complete with 3 meals a day and a daily wage of 10 coins. A young man in the throng expressed his doubts, questioning the new lord's unexpected generosity. Others echoed his skepticism, fearing it might be a ruse. Memories of past betrayals by the nobles lingered in their minds, and some voiced concerns that such an arrangement could be perilous, potentially costing them their lives. In that tense moment, Lillian stepped forward, her voice ringing with conviction. She defended Rain, asserting that he had vowed to enhance their lives. Her earnestness was met with derisive laughter, the crowd dismissing her as naive for placing her trust in a noble. Even Lillian's father joined in, accusing her of being enchanted by Rain's charm. Undeterred by the jeers and her father's scorn, Lillian boldly declared her intention to sign up for the dam project. The recruiter, a composed young man overseeing the registration, remained unfazed by the crowd's skepticism. Turning to Lillian's father, he extended an invitation for him to join the dam project but clarified that Lillian herself could not participate. Confused, Lillian pressed for an explanation, insisting on her capability and health. The recruiter explained that Rain had instituted strict regulations barring anyone under 18 from working, warning that hiring minors without Rain's consent would lead to severe consequences. Handing Lillian's father a registration form, he reiterated the terms: 3 meals a day, an 8-hour workday, and a wage of 10 coins daily. If there were no further objections, he invited Lillian's father to sign the form and commence work the next day. Though slightly disheartened, Lillian encouraged her father to give his all and avoid any laziness. Her father, smiling warmly, patted her head and reassured her, promising not to gamble again and vowing not to let Rain down. He also reminded Lillian to stay home, as she must tend to her mother, whose illness rendered her unable to handle any demanding tasks. Just as Lillian and her father were about to leave, the recruiter called out to them, prompting a halt. Surprised, Lillian's father inquired if there was an issue. The recruiter, with a look of concern, mentioned that he had overheard the father discussing his wife's serious condition. Lillian's father quickly clarified that his wife was indeed unable to work due to her illness. The recruiter smiled warmly, reassuring him that he wasn't asking her to work. He explained that Rain had arranged for the families of workers to stay in dormitories during the project. Noticing the father's confusion, the recruiter elaborated that these dormitories were temporary accommodations for families involved in the dam's construction. Once the project concluded, families would be able to return to their homes. Touched by such kindness, Lillian's father was overwhelmed with emotion and fell to his knees, expressing heartfelt thanks to the recruiter. The young man quickly rushed to help him up, insisting that such gestures were unnecessary. He then offered to show them a room where they could stay, allowing them to select their accommodations. The townsfolk who had witnessed this exchange were astonished. Realizing that Rain's promises were indeed sincere, they began clamoring to sign up for work, and soon the square erupted into chaos as people rushed to register, eager to seize the opportunity. Meanwhile, in his office, Rain was sifting through system updates when a notification suddenly appeared. Congratulations, you have received the lithium battery blueprint from the newbie gift pack. Instead of feeling excitement, Rain was hit with irritation. He muttered to himself, questioning the system's reasoning. Without a generator, a battery was nearly useless. Did the system really expect him to conjure a lightning strike? After expressing his frustration, Rain took a moment to collect himself and began to reflect. His thoughts turned to the challenge of training 5 individuals with exceptional abilities, but he was at a loss for where to find such talent. Initially, he thought about training Leah, but a quick check of her data revealed that she had already reached her full potential, leaving no room for further development. Weighing his options, Rain decided that his best bet was to seek out gifted individuals in Island City. As he pondered his next move, a knock interrupted his thoughts. Leah's voice came from the other side, announcing that Lillian had arrived to see him. Rain opened the door, and Lillian entered, her expression tight with concern. She quickly explained that there was a problem at the construction site. The workers were unusually sluggish. Rain was startled by her report and urged her to provide more details. Lillian recounted her visit to the site, where she had gone to check on her father. She noticed that none of the workers seemed capable of completing their tasks. Initially, she thought they were simply being lazy, but her father clarified that everyone felt an overwhelming fatigue upon waking. It wasn't just him. Every worker was experiencing the same issue. Lillian attempted to motivate them, reminding them of the generous benefits Lord Rain had provided, but her encouragement fell on deaf ears. The workers insisted that their fatigue was not a choice. They genuinely lacked the energy to work. Some speculated that their bodies were unaccustomed to labor after such a long period of inactivity, while others suggested taking a day off to recuperate before returning to their duties. However, Lillian dismissed these claims, firmly believing that there was no real illness at play. She thought they were simply being lazy. As she came to the realization that her attempts to inspire them were in vain, she resolved to address the issue directly with Rain. After hearing her account, Rain wasted no time and made his way to the construction site. Upon his arrival, he witnessed the workers' sluggishness firsthand. Their lack of energy was unmistakable. To gain a deeper understanding of the situation, Rain utilized his system abilities to assess their stats. On the surface, everything seemed normal, but he quickly identified a significant anomaly. All the workers were under a curse. Turning to Lillian, he calmly clarified, "They're not sick. They're cursed." With this new insight, Rain took a moment to survey the construction site, pondering his next steps. He decided to put his recently acquired skill, geological survey, to the test. Although he had initially intended to use this ability during the dam's construction, the urgency of the current situation called for immediate action. This skill allowed him to analyze various geological features, including mineral compositions, hydrology, and topography within a specified range. With a command, the system sprang to life, conducting a survey over a 10 kilometers radius. Moments later, the results flooded his mind. While the survey confirmed the absence of valuable resources like oil or metals, something peculiar caught Rain's attention. Trusting his instincts, he asked Lillian's father to help him dig at the indicated spot. The man readily agreed, eager to assist Rain. After digging about a meter into the earth, they uncovered a strange black stone. Rain crouched down to inspect it closely, intrigued by its nature. Leah, who stood nearby, was taken aback by Rain's ability to detect the faint magical energy radiating from the stone. Something even she, with her expertise, had missed. Rain instructed the group to carefully extract the crystal and secure it in a box. Turning to Leah, he inquired about the standard procedure for handling cursed individuals. Leah, taken aback by the inquiry, clarified that curses were usually dealt with by priests in a church or by esteemed mages from the Mage Association. Rain, sensing a potential link to the Mage Association, frowned thoughtfully. He resolved to take Lillian and her father to the nearby church for help. Lillian, filled with concern, questioned whether her father was genuinely cursed. Rain offered her reassurance, vowing to hold the wrongdoer accountable for their misdeeds. The trio hurried to the church, where they were met by a breathtaking priestess. She greeted Rain with warmth, her demeanor serene and composed. Rain, ever vigilant, utilized his system to evaluate her loyalty before confiding in her. The system promptly displayed her stats. A loyalty level of 95%, identified as an elf, and an actual age of around 257 years, though she appeared no older than 24. Rain was taken aback to discover she wasn't human, yet her high loyalty provided him with comfort. Introducing herself, the priestess revealed her name was Ayuria and referred to herself as the Holy Maiden of the Church. She courteously inquired about the reason for their visit, gesturing toward Lillian's father. Rain explained that the man appeared to be cursed and asked if Ayuria could assist them. Ayuria nodded with confidence and began to examine the man. Closing her eyes for a moment, she reopened them, a golden glow emanating from her gaze as she scrutinized him intently. After a brief pause, she confirmed Rain's fears and initiated the treatment by summoning a radiant sphere of light. She channeled the energy into the man's body, instantly releasing the dark force. The man felt a surge of vitality, expressing his heartfelt thanks to Rain and pledging to return to his duties right away. With a warm smile, Rain advised him to take a moment to rest and ensure everything was completely settled before diving back into work. He then picked up the box that held the black crystal and turned to Ayuria for her insights. Ayuria scrutinized the crystal, recognizing it as a magical artifact brimming with potent energy. She explained that this energy was typically harnessed for casting curses but clarified that this particular curse was more of a mischievous trick aimed at inducing fatigue rather than inflicting serious harm. Rain felt a wave of unease wash over him at her explanation. He inquired whether such crystals were challenging to create. Ayuria responded that, for a high-level mage, crafting one crystal a day was quite manageable, and they could easily be scattered throughout the construction site. Rain's expression darkened as he grasped the intentionality behind the disruption. Ayuria commended Rain's project, noting its effectiveness in decreasing the number of people seeking help from the church. Now convinced of the identity of the culprit, Rain resolved to take decisive action. He asked Ayuria if it was feasible to lift the curse from the entire construction site. Ayuria regretfully explained that such a task was beyond reach. Removing individual crystals daily would merely delay the project's progress. Rain sighed, recognizing the necessity of tackling the root issue. Ayuria then mentioned someone who might offer assistance but cautioned that this person was quite eccentric. She provided an address, and Rain decided to follow up on it. He and Leah arrived at a grand mansion, which Ayuria had indicated as the residence of Selena, the former president of the Mage Association. As they approached the door, Rain knocked firmly, his resolve unshakable. Suddenly, Leah sensed an impending threat and quickly yanked Rain aside. Moments later, a thunderous explosion erupted from the upper floor of the building, sending a plume of smoke and debris spiraling into the sky. Rain, taken aback, demanded to know what was unfolding. From the swirling smoke, a striking woman emerged, her voice laced with irritation as she cursed her botched experiment, vowing to achieve success even if it meant obliterating all of Ashling City. Once inside the house, Rain approached Selena with a calm demeanor, laying out his request and explaining the predicament he faced, seeking her help. However, she dismissed him outright, curtly informing him that her focus was on developing a new magical device, leaving no room for his troubles. Intrigued, Rain pressed her for details, inquiring if she was working on something akin to a magic wand. Selena scoffed at the notion, ridiculing his limited grasp of the subject. Leah, her demeanor frosty, quickly intervened, cautioning Selena to temper her tone when speaking to young Master Rain. Irritated by Leah's interruption, Selena turned her attention to her, commenting on Leah's impressive magical prowess. With a sly grin, she suggested that Leah could serve as her assistant, promising to help Rain once her research bore fruit. Sparks of lightning danced around Selena as she showcased her power, while Leah stood her ground, ready to retaliate, her voice sharp as she offered to teach Selena some respect. Sensing the escalating tension, Rain stepped in between them, urging Leah to back down. He reminded her that they were there seeking assistance, not to ignite a conflict. Turning his gaze to Selena's chaotic workspace, he inquired if she had crafted the various items strewn across the table, curious if they were indeed magical devices. Selena's eyes sparkled with pride as she confirmed his observation. She made it clear, however, that everything laid out before them was a product of failure. She elaborated on her ambition to craft a wondrous device capable of harnessing the lightning elemental magic that surged within her. Rain was taken aback, captivated by the idea, likening it to the concept of storing electrical energy. Selena affirmed his understanding, explaining that the earlier explosion had resulted from her devices being unable to contain her immense power. Once again dismissing him, she insisted that she needed to recuperate and delve deeper into her research. Rain paused, lost in contemplation, before proposing a deal. He suggested that if he could assist her in creating the device she envisioned, she would need to help him with his own troubles concerning the Wizards Guild. Selena, skeptical and annoyed, waved him off, asserting that her research was far too intricate for someone like him to comprehend. Remaining calm, Rain insisted he was serious, promising to aid her in the creation of the magical device in exchange for her support. Yet doubtful, Selena finally relented, stipulating that if Rain succeeded, she would not only confront Malcolm but also ensure that the Mages Guild complied with his every command. However, if he failed, she would not hesitate to impose punishment. Without delay, Rain urged Selena to gather the necessary materials. Using the blueprint provided by the system, he guided her in assembling a lithium battery pack made up of 8 large batteries connected together. Despite their efforts, Rain felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. They lacked a dependable power source to test the device, as a hydraulic generator was unavailable. They had no option but to depend on Selena's magic as a substitute. Following Rain's guidance, Selena pieced together the components but remained doubtful. She reminded him that most materials couldn't withstand her magical energy and cautioned that the device might explode. Unfazed, Rain handed her the wires and offered reassurance. He elaborated that the battery pack boasted a capacity of around 185 watt-hours and encouraged her to focus her energy into it. Hesitantly, Selena began to channel her magic, and to her surprise, the device absorbed her energy seamlessly. Intrigued, she pushed her output higher, yet the battery remained unfazed. Selena, taken aback, demanded to know why the device hadn't burst apart. Rain, with a sly grin, teased her, insinuating that her magical prowess wasn't as formidable as she believed. Infuriated, Selena unleashed her full potential. But even at maximum output, the battery pack stood firm, showing no signs of wear. Stunned, Selena realized just how much power the device could hold and how effortlessly Rain had constructed it. With a sense of satisfaction, Rain stepped closer to assess the charge level, discovering it was at 87% capacity. Internally, he was impressed by Selena's strength. She had nearly filled the entire pack, enough to power an electric vehicle for over 3,000 kilometers. Rain's ambition was to transform the Mages Guild, referring to them as potential power sources, and he had a vision for harnessing their magical abilities. Intrigued, Selena inquired if Rain himself could wield lightning magic. He didn't refute it. Instead, he asserted that he could enable everyone in Ashling City to harness magic. Skeptical, Selena pointed out that magic couldn't simply be learned by anyone. Rain, however, remained unruffled, hinting at a magical device even more potent than the battery pack and promising to unveil a world where magic was within everyone's reach if she agreed to assist him. Both baffled and intrigued, Selena couldn't fathom such a reality but chose to continue collaborating with him. The following day at the Magic Guild, Malcolm was leisurely engrossed in a book, confident that Rain would soon come seeking his assistance. Selena's sudden entrance shattered the tranquility of the moment, leaving Malcolm frozen in disbelief. The former president of the Mages Guild was the last person he anticipated to see. Stammering, he greeted her with caution, his mind racing to understand her purpose for coming. Selena's voice rose, laced with fury as she confronted him, accusing him of daring to challenge the authority of the Grand Duke's household. Her words sliced through the air, sharp and accusatory, as she demanded to know if he was plotting a rebellion. Malcolm, visibly shaken, stuttered his denial, insisting he would never entertain such dangerous ideas. Unconvinced, Selena seized him by the collar, her patience wearing thin. She demanded the truth, insisting he confess to his actions at Rain's construction site. Trembling under her intense gaze, Malcolm quickly capitulated, admitting he had summoned all the mages from the guild and stirred their anger by claiming that young Master Rain had disrespected them. He confessed to instructing the mages to create curse-infused crystals and using teleportation magic to bury them underground at the construction site, intending to make the workers feel exhausted, hoping Rain would blame them for their laziness. His ultimate goal was to force Rain into an apology and foster closer ties with the Mages Guild. Selena listened, a mix of disbelief and frustration washing over her as she shook her head, calling him a fool and pointing out that he had been manipulated. When Malcolm, still bewildered, asked who had used him, she dismissed his question, instead commanding him to summon every mage involved in the sabotage immediately. Malcolm nodded quickly, rushing off to obey her order. Once he was gone, Selena retrieved a talisman to contact Rain, informing him that she had resolved the issue with the Mages Guild. Rain expressed his gratitude, thanking her for her invaluable assistance. Selena, curious, asked if he needed her help dealing with Eldrick, offering to make him disappear without a trace. Rain quickly declined, waving his hand reflexively, even though she couldn't see him. He explained that Eldrick wasn't a significant concern and that he still needed him to lure out a bigger threat. Accepting Rain's decision, Selena agreed not to interfere. Her tone shifted to excitement as she brought up the new inventions Rain had mentioned earlier. She pressed him for details, asking when they would be ready and insisting he call her when he began working on them. Rain reassured her that he would keep her informed but emphasized the importance of having the guild's mages finish charging the battery clusters first. The next day, at the City Lord's residence, Eldrick met with a mysterious man cloaked in shadow. Eldrick, visibly worried, reported that Rain had already taken control of the Mages Guild. He nervously asked for guidance, but the mysterious man remained calm and dismissive, stating that the Mages Guild posed no real threat aside from Selena. He redirected Eldrick's attention to Rain's dam project, warning that if the dam succeeded, it could revitalize the people of Elon, a scenario they couldn't allow. Eldrick assured the man that he had already set traps for Rain and revealed an additional plan. He intended to pressure the nobles in charge of food supplies to raise prices, undermining Rain's efforts. When the mysterious man expressed doubt about the nobles' loyalty, Eldrick confidently explained that while the nobles might betray him, they would never betray their own financial interests. Flicking a gold coin into the air with a smirk, Eldrick declared that Rain's funds wouldn't last until the dam's completion. As the coin landed on the table, the mysterious man's figure dissolved into thin air. Meanwhile, in the bustling market, Lillian was buying supplies for the construction site when a shopkeeper rudely chased her away. His tone was condescending as he told her to leave if she couldn't afford the goods. Lillian, frustrated, pointed out the absurd price hike just the day before. 2 bags of grain had cost 1 gold coin, but now 1 bag alone was priced at 2 gold coins. The shopkeeper, unfazed and arrogantly stated that he could set whatever prices he wanted. He mocked her inability to pay and raised his hand as if to strike her. The commotion drew the attention of onlookers, many of whom were outraged by the shopkeeper's actions. Lillian, determined to fulfill her task for Rain, accused the merchants of profiteering and warned them of Rain's potential wrath. The shopkeeper sneered, dismissing her threat, claiming his business was honest and that Rain had no grounds to interfere. His arrogance only deepened the frustration of those watching. At the church, Ayuria was equally infuriated by the rampant price gouging. She noted that food prices had tripled in just 3 days, leaving her with inadequate grain to sustain the people through the winter. Handing a pouch of coins to her assistant, Elria, she instructed her to buy whatever supplies she could, promising to figure out the rest later. Elria hesitated, surprised by the unusually large sum of money, and pointed out that bribing guards typically required much less. Ayuria sighed, urging Elria to follow her orders without question. Before Elria could act, Leah appeared suddenly, snatching the pouch with lightning speed and handing it to Rain with a calm but determined expression. Rain suggested a collaboration. He proposed working together on a larger plan, one that would address the root of the crisis and prevent further exploitation by the merchants. Ayuria looked at Rain with suspicion, questioning what kind of cooperation he had in mind. Rain smiled at her guarded demeanor, suggesting she relax and not be so tense about discussing cooperation. He then casually mentioned that he knew she was an elf. Ayuria, though deeply concerned that Rain had discovered her true identity, maintained her composure and denied it, insisting that an elf couldn't possibly be living in a human city. Rain, unfazed, tossed a pouch of coins back to Ayuria and reassured her that he held no malicious intentions toward her or her kind. Ayuria, avoiding the topic, redirected the conversation again, asking what kind of cooperation he was proposing. Rain gestured toward the sacks of food on a cart nearby and explained that he wanted to collaborate on resolving the issue of food supplies in the city. While Ayuria respected Rain's determination, she doubted his ability to tackle such a deeply entrenched problem. She openly voiced her skepticism, prompting Rain to ask why she felt that way. Ayuria elaborated, explaining that food supplies in Ashling were controlled by 4 major families who had held power in the city for over a century. These families tightly regulated prices, and their influence was unshakable. She reminded Rain that although he had used strong-arm tactics at the recent banquet to intimidate some of them, they were cunning individuals who would undoubtedly find a way to recover their losses. Rain interrupted her, curious about her in-depth knowledge of the city's inner workings. Ayuria admitted that she had lived in Ashling for over 120 years and understood its complexities well. She further suggested that had Rain eliminated the Elwyn family at the banquet, there might have been a chance for reconciliation, but now it was too late. Ayuria added that due to war and natural disasters, food was already scarce, and if prices remained high, her tribe would struggle to survive the winter. Rain cut her off again, his gaze resolute. He promised Ayuria that within 2 weeks, food prices in Ashling would plummet to levels even lower than before. At the mansion of Augustus Ken, head of the Klein family, a celebratory gathering was underway. Augustus expressed his gratitude to Eldre for his support, acknowledging that their alliance had led to significant profits. Others in the room echoed their thanks, raising their glasses to toast Augustus and their shared success. The mood was jubilant as the group reveled in their recent gains, confident in their strategy. Their celebration was interrupted by a servant announcing that Rain had invited them to attend a banquet at his mansion. One of the men, startled by the news, speculated nervously whether Rain was planning to punish them. Turning to Augustus, he asked for guidance on how they should proceed. Augustus, calm and calculating, reassured them that they had nothing to fear. He explained that their trade in food supplies was entirely legal and protected by the system they had established. Augustus emphasized that as long as they didn't openly defy Rain, they wouldn't be in danger. He pointed out that the collective strength of their 4 families was formidable and that even the king had no authority to interfere with food pricing. With this reasoning, the group relaxed, agreeing that their position was secure. Augustus suggested that if Rain attempted to pressure them, they could make a token gesture by slightly lowering prices, perhaps by 5 copper coins. However, he warned them sternly that any betrayal would result in severe consequences. With their confidence restored, Augustus encouraged the group to prepare for the banquet. Despite their initial surprise at his insistence on changing into old, tattered clothes, they followed his lead. At Rain's mansion, a servant informed him that Augustus and the invited guests had arrived. Rain instructed the servant to invite them in and ensure the kitchen prepared the food. When Augustus and the others entered, Rain immediately noticed their deliberate attempts to appear impoverished, their once lavish clothing replaced with ragged attire. Amused, he thought to himself how poorly they played their roles. Maintaining his composure, Rain greeted them with mock surprise, commenting on how unexpected it was to see the nobleman who controlled Elan's food supply looking so destitute. Augustus quickly responded, praising Rain's projects and claiming that they, too, wanted to contribute to the greater good. Another man chimed in, explaining that under Augustus's leadership, they had not only donated money to Rain's initiatives but also sold food from their warehouses at the lowest possible prices, even taking a loss to help the citizens. Leah, observing their shameless behavior, felt nothing but disdain. Their blatant lies and attempts to deceive Rain did not surprise her. Rain, however, played along, thanking them for their understanding and claiming to be deeply moved by their support. He explained that he had invited them to discuss the grain trade plan. Before Rain could continue, Augustus interrupted, asserting that they understood Rain's financial difficulties. He reiterated that at the current price of 2 gold coins per sack of food, they were already selling at a loss. The others nodded in agreement, backing Augustus's claim. Rain smiled and clarified his intent. He proposed raising the price of food on the island to 4 gold coins per sack, starting the next day. His statement left the nobles baffled. Augustus, confused, questioned whether Rain truly intended to increase prices. Rain confirmed with a calm yet commanding tone, explaining that not only would the price rise to 4 gold coins, but he would also take a 30% commission on all sales. When Rain announced that the price of grain would increase to 4 gold coins per sack, with a 30% commission going to him, Augustus was visibly confused. He questioned whether Rain had misspoken, unsure if he had heard correctly. Rain didn't repeat himself. Instead, he calmly reminded Augustus about the 30% commission he would be taking. Hearing this, Augustus and the other nobles quickly exchanged delighted glances. Initially, they had underestimated Rain, thinking him to be just an inexperienced young lord. Now, they believed he was a cunning businessman like themselves. They viewed Rain as someone who understood their interests and figured that with his backing, their business ventures would thrive. Regret filled them for not realizing his shrewdness earlier. They could have aligned with him much sooner. Augustus, while excited by Rain's statement, knew they couldn't act rashly without official documentation. Raising prices too high could cause chaos, potentially harming their interests. With this in mind, Augustus voiced his concerns, politely thanking Rain for his understanding and asking when an official announcement would be issued. Rain prepared for this, instructing Leah to hand him a document. With a cheerful tone, he informed them that he had already written and stamped the official notice with his family seal, and it would be posted after their meal as the conversation continued. Rain reminded the nobles that from now on, they would follow his instructions, urging them to learn from the consequences the Elwyn family had suffered. Augustus eagerly assured him that they wouldn't disappoint. After the banquet, the nobles gathered once again at Augustus's residence. Rain's unexpected approach had left them bewildered. they debated whether to report this new development to the city, noting how strange it was for Rain to increase prices rather than lower them. Some suspected he was motivated purely by greed. Augustus, however, dismissed their doubts, calling it a golden opportunity. He reminded them that if too many people learned of their scheme, their profits would shrink. He assured them that Rain was merely a child using benefits to draw them in and urged them to keep the price hike a secret. A vast fortune was within their grasp, and only a fool would let such an opportunity slip away. Despite Augustus's confidence, one cautious noble expressed unease. He admitted that in all his years, he had never encountered such a lucrative opportunity, which made him worry. Nonetheless, he pledged to follow Augustus's lead, bowing deeply as a show of loyalty. The others quickly followed suit, swearing their allegiance to Augustus. Satisfied, Augustus laughed heartily, declaring that from now on, they would act as one. He proposed they immediately buy up all the grain from smaller merchants before the announcement was posted, ensuring they controlled the market and maximized their profits. Meanwhile, back at Rain's estate, unexpected guests arrived. Elria stormed in, visibly furious. She accused Rain of siding with the corrupt merchants, demanding to know why he had promised to lower grain prices yet allowed them to skyrocket instead. Her anger flared as she declared that she wouldn't stand by while the elf race was being exploited. Lillian quickly stepped in, trying to calm her down. She assured Elria that Rain intended to reduce food prices and urged her to trust him. Still agitated, Elria snapped back, insisting that Rain had already become an accomplice to the greedy merchants. Despite this, Lillian maintained her faith in Rain's decisions, pleading with Elria to believe in his plan. After a moment of tense silence, Elria turned to Rain, her expression filled with concern. Hesitantly, she asked if he truly intended to raise food prices. Rain smiled but chose not to reveal his full strategy, simply reassuring her that food prices would drop soon. In the worst case, he promised they would fall to their lowest point within 2 weeks. Elria, unconvinced, felt Rain was being naive. She believed he didn't understand the harsh realities of the world. Having lived for over 200 years, she had never seen food prices decrease after a major spike. Rain, sensing her doubt, grew serious. He posed a rhetorical question. If he put a knife to the nobles' throats, how much did she think they would lower the price by? 1 coin? 10 coins? Elria had no answer but remained skeptical. She argued that raising the price to 4 gold coins per sack was excessive, noting that at 2 gold coins, the common people had already struggled to afford food. With the price doubled, starvation seemed inevitable. Rain maintained his calm demeanor, explaining that whether the price was 2 or 4 gold coins, the people would starve either way. The only difference was the timing. He then declared that simply lowering the price by a few coins would be meaningless. His goal wasn't charity. It was to completely ruin the merchants and strip them of their fortunes. 7 days passed, during which Rain focused on teaching Selena about the creation and functionality of lithium batteries. Selena, fascinated by the device's complexity, was thoroughly engrossed in the lessons. Their session was interrupted by Leah's sudden appearance, announcing that Saintess Elria had come to visit once again. Over the past few days, Elria had visited frequently, prompting Rain to wonder if she had too much free time on her hands. Selena, equally curious, asked Rain why he had deliberately raised food prices. By now, grain prices in the city had soared to nearly 7 gold coins per sack. Rain, surprised by how quickly prices had risen, didn't have time to answer as Elria burst into the room. She immediately scolded him, exclaiming that not only could the common people but even some nobles could no longer afford food. She demanded to know if he realized how bad the situation had become. Remaining calm, Rain asked Leah how many days had passed since the price increase. Leah quickly responded, confirming that it had been 7 days. Hearing this, Rain smiled, declaring that it was time to deal with the merchants. Elria, still frustrated, demanded that Rain stop speaking in vague terms and explain himself. She warned him that if he didn't, the elf tribe would soon cut ties with him. Rain finally responded, explaining that he hadn't shared the full details of his plan earlier because he feared it might disrupt things and raise suspicions among the nobles. Now, with everything in place, he was ready to explain. Rain revealed that the announcement setting a minimum food price of 4 gold coins per sack had been in effect for 7 days. He then posed a question to Elria, asking what she thought Ashling City lacked the most right now. After a moment of thought, she replied that there didn't seem to be a shortage of anything. Rain smiled knowingly at her answer and calmly responded, "What the city lacks are merchants who sell grain. Ashling City currently has no shortage of 2 things: food and merchants selling food. Greed is the easiest trait in human nature to manipulate. No one can resist their desires." The price of grain in Ashling City had skyrocketed to 4 gold coins per bag. This news spread quickly to merchants in surrounding towns, who immediately saw an opportunity. With fanatical expressions, they loaded up their wagons and raced to the city. Merchants from out of town arrived in droves, carrying massive amounts of grain into Ashling City. "Those 4 fools will definitely buy it at high prices," they thought, further fueling their greed. Now, Ashling City has become the Empire's most food-rich city. Faced with the prospect of 10,000% profits, no merchant retained any rationality in their minds. There are only 2 words: get rich. By the end of today, the 4 great noble houses of Ashling City will cease to exist. Leah, post this proclamation throughout every street and alley of Ashling City. Let everyone know the Church of Saintess Illyria, disapproving of young Master Rain's actions, has decided to sell the church's grain reserves at just 1 gold coin per bag. Make sure the news spreads like wildfire." "Yes, understood," Leah replied. Saintess Illyria turned to Rain and asked, "Why are you giving me such a good reputation?" Rain explained, "Because I don't have any grain. How am I supposed to sell it?" Illyria said, "But I don't have that much grain either." "Wait, you're not suggesting I sell the grain my people need to survive the winter, are you?" Illyria's expression turned stern. "Young Master Rain, I'm telling you, absolutely not. This is the grain my elven people need to survive the winter." Selena intervened. "Elria, you're so innocent. If I were you, I'd hurry and follow the young master's plan. Sell your grain immediately. Every second you hesitate will cost you dearly." Leah countered, "We elves don't care about money. We only care about having enough grain." Rain exclaimed, "Trust me, do as I say, and you'll end up with even more grain than before. Don't worry, Miss Selena. I'm leaving the city locked down to you and the Mage Association." Young Master Rain smiled confidently. "No problem. Not even a single rat will leave Ashling City under my watch." Leah expressed her concerns. "Young Master Rain, I'm worried it won't go so smoothly. What if the merchants hold out for a few days, and the saint's grain runs out?" Young Master Rain reassured her, "Leah, there are 2 types of strategies: covert plots and open schemes. Covert plots can be avoided, but open schemes cannot. Those out-of-town merchants are blinded by greed, gambling their entire fortunes and lives on this one move. They dream of overnight wealth. The moment they hear the fallen grain prices, they'll scramble to cash out and flee because any hesitation means death." Meanwhile, panic spread among the city's nobles. A noble exclaimed, "Terrible news! The church has posted a notice saying they'll sell the reserve grain to aid the people at just 1 gold coin per bag." Lord Augustus's advisor suggested, "Lord Augustus, what should we do? We forgot about the church." "Yeah, what now? We bought our grain at 2 gold coins per bag." "Calm down," exclaimed Augustus. "How much grain can the church possibly have? Enough to feed Ashling City for a few days at most. Send people to infiltrate and buy as much as possible." The scene shifted to the church, where the priest announced, "The Pope has sent 10,000 bags of grain for the people in need." The crowd erupted in cheers, and the priest continued, "I don't believe it. Everyone hurry up and buy. Once it's gone, it's gone. Saintess, this is the grain provided by the Pope. This is the first batch, and tomorrow the other shipments will start arriving in Ashling City." Saintess grumbled, All right, I understand. Young Master Rain, please stop giving me extra work to do. I can't handle it anymore." The merchants, realizing their scheme had been foiled, panicked. It's over. The deal is ruined. The church has messed things up. One merchant, desperate to sell his grain, exclaimed, "Selling grain? Fresh grain this year? 95 silver coins per bag."